Good morning and good evening or good afternoon, family. Whenever you're catching this episode of Let's Talk Justice, we welcome you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Suzette Speaks. As you know, Let's Talk Justice is a talk show for the community. So we talk about everyday legal issues and politics that affect everyday people. Well, today's episode is going to be fabulous. Please don't be bashful. Tell us where you're watching from. Drop a comment, whether you're watching on the Jamaicans.com Facebook page, our co-host, or you're watching on the Let's Talk Justice page or on YouTube, we welcome you. I'm a TV host and attorney here locally in South Florida, and I have a special Jamaican American stalwart in politics here in South Florida. He is a trailblazer, former mayor of Broward County, Florida. His track record goes back more than 17 plus years of in public service, and he is now running to become the next congressional seat holder for Florida District 20. He's trying to get to DC, and we are trying to get to know him today. For those of you who don't know him, I want to welcome and give a proud South Florida welcome. Y'all come on with the comments. You can ask him anything you'd like. Welcome none other than one Mr. Dale V.C. Holness. Welcome, Mr. Holness. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for hosting this program, for educating and informing the public, and for having me on this morning. I'm truly grateful.
I am glad you're here. This is one of the busiest men in Broward County. So to have him here is very special. And we want to, of course, allow him to tell us more about his vision for this district. For those of you who don't know, there is a special election coming up. And we're trying to interview all of the candidates so that you can make an informed decision. Remember, November 2nd, right, Mr. Holness?
That's
November
correct.
2nd is the big day. Put it on your calendars if you're in Broward County and if you're in Palm Beach County, Florida. All right. So go ahead. Let us know you're watching. I'm going to read some of the comments here. If you have questions for him, you can ask him directly. But I'm going to start by asking him to tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you grew up. I know you're a proud immigrant, graduate of Plantation High School, all of that. So let us know a little bit more about you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I was born in Jamaica. I immigrated from Jamaica to the United States at the age of 17. Finished high school here at Plantation High. Went on to Broward College, and while at Broward College, I became a freshman senator and worked to put myself through whatever education I had there. But while doing that, I was working at McDonald's. They made me a manager at the age of 20 to run a store. I was running one of the corporate stores, a pretty busy one on the beach side. I bought my first home at the age of 22 and got hooked by the real estate business. So at 26, I started in the real estate business and owned my own company a couple of years later, All Broad Realty. At its peak, we had about 86 agents doing 600 real estate transactions a year. We're ranked in the top 10% of all companies in Broward County for many, many years. Became a preferred broker for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Bank of America, City Financial, and in that work, I got engaged in many aspects of the real estate business. Was the president of the South Florida Board of Realtors, a group started by Black people in 1947 when blacks could not be realtors. They weren't admitted into the realtors organization, and did a lot of work with them with helping to put a lot of people into homes. I also was a part of the Realtor Association. I sat on their strategic planning committee, the political action committee. I did candidate screening. I was co-chair of that committee and screened all the candidates for Lauderhill in 1998 and was dismayed at the answers I received about what was happening in Lauderhill at the time. There's an area then referred to as Deep Side off 55th and 56th Avenue where we had drug dealers selling drugs openly across the street from City Hall, and on the other corner was the police station. And I asked, what are they going to do about it? And one of the leaders at the time, who became mayor, said it was not unusual for that kind of stuff to happen in urban areas, and the blight and all the issues there. So I decided, I could probably do something about that. So I ran in 2000, lost the election by 117 votes to a very nice guy, Wally Alphas. I was heartened by, ran again in 2002, lost that election by 335 votes to a person who shouldn't be in public office. She wasn't a nice person at all. It was kind of very hateful. Didn't like people that looked like you and I. And, you know, part of the reason I believe I lost that election is one, people didn't know me enough, especially those in the white community. But also the fact that were I to have won that election for the first time in the City of Lauderhill history, the commission would become a majority black commission. And the Sun Sentinel carried that on their local front page. And a lot of folks didn't want to see that happen. So I lost that election, but I ensure I continued the work. Because after interviewing those candidates, I got really engaged. Attended every city commission meeting up until I got elected in 2004 in March. I pledged to change things. So I got the city to buy that corner store at Mission Lakes Plaza, put the police cars out there, build programs to help people, young people in the community, especially young men, who needed a different way, an alternative to being on the corner. Started the Lauderhill Chamber of Commerce, very successful chamber. Also put in place Lauderhill Education A+ plan because the schools were also struggling at the time. With some bright educators, put in the schools Kapow, Kids in the Power of Work, where we bring professionals like you, firefighters, teachers, nurses, business owners, into the classroom to explain to children why they go to school and how what they learn applies in real life. And additionally, how character matters, how behavior matters. Very successful program still going on in several of the schools in Lauderhill. I put $100,000 in funding for the Education A+ plan, $100,000 for the Chamber of Commerce. Those funds have diminished since I've left. The program still continues, not at the heightened level as I was there because I was driving that very hard. Then in 2010, the good people of Broward elected me to the county commission. I continued to work on many of the same issues that we faced in Lauderhill, being very engaged in the community, helping our businesses. I focused heavily on our small, minority, and women-owned businesses to ensure they had access to contracting opportunities at the county. When I got there, through our CBE and our SBE program, only 10.25% of the procurement went to these categories of small, minority, women-owned businesses. Today, it's 44%. Last year, representing $136 million. I've helped coach, guide, and bring minority, women-owned business into the fore. And I think of one particular business that when I got there was doing about $275,000 in contracted, to where over the past 3 years, they have grown to average $5 million per year over the past 3 years, graduating from the program. And now I have to find some other mechanism to help companies like those so they're not left out to fight against multinational corporations from coming in and taking the business. Put together the Criminal Justice and Police Oversight Board last year. Put together Racial Equity Task Force Ordinance to look at how we deal with the issue of race equity within Broward County, bringing together a variety of organizations, NAACP, Black Lives Matters, the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance, Business Alliance, the Broward Workshop, big powerful group. The school board is on there. The Broward College has a seat at the table. Legal entities, the bars have a seat at the table. The police department have a seat at the table. We must look at all the policies that we have so that we end systemic racism because it's real. It is absolutely real, and it does exist. And City Financial did a study that showed that because of our racial inequities in our country, we lost $16 trillion in gross domestic output, gross domestic product over the past 20 years. And if we were to fix it, we could grow the economy by $20 trillion, which means every American, no matter your background, will be able to benefit. Civil citation programs, another one that I've championed. Putting in place the adult civil citation version of the juvenile civil citation that I championed and worked on for many years. The adult civil citation is a little more recent. And we started first with Marty Kay, our co-sponsor, an ordinance that says that if you had 20 grams or less of marijuana, we wouldn't arrest you. The police could give you a citation. And then we added on other misdemeanor offenses. These are very important programs because we lock up too much of our people. And then sadly, most of them are black and brown. In Florida, 17% of the population is black, yet 49% of the people in prison are black. There's something wrong with that. We're robbing ourselves of our most important capital, our human capital, that we should be developing rather than just have them warehoused in prison. And there's a lot that happens that people are not aware of.
Yeah, I'm go ahead, sir. I'm going to cut you because I know you have so much policy knowledge that we're going to try to break up issue for issue because there's so much I think people can even learn from this conversation because you're introducing some of these issues to people for the first time. So I want to do a quick reset here. Welcome those watching online, Jamaicans.com, our co-host, Let's Talk Justice show, or on Suzette Speaks YouTube. Welcome. I am Suzette Speaks. This is Let's Talk Justice, the talk show for the community where we discuss legal issues and politics that affect everyday people. Who is sitting with me? Well, this gentleman is an illustrious politician from Broward County, born in Jamaica, graduated from Plantation High School, has been serving the public for more than 17 plus years now. He has such a long track record that we're going to try to cover everything in the next hour, but let us know where you're watching from. Please drop a comment if you have a question for him. If you live in Broward County and Palm Beach County, don't forget, we have a special election for the seat that was left by our trailblazing congressman who passed away earlier this year, Al C. Hastings. So this is the seat. This is the person that will fill the seat. And we want to make sure we are informing you and allowing you a chance to get to know who's running. So Dale Holness is the former mayor of Broward County, former vice-mayor, former Lauderhill City Commissioner. And what I realized with your story, Dale, I didn't realize you lost 2 elections early because to see how much success you've had, I think that's a wonderful, story of resilience in and of itself, because so many people will think, okay, I didn't get it the first time, I'm going to give up. But you stayed with it. You stayed active within your community, stayed fighting for specific issues, and you were successful thereafter. Yeah. Hi, good morning. I don't know if you know this person, but I'm going to show her. Hi, Christina. Hello, Brother Dale. Welcome. We want you guys to become, involved in the conversation. This is about you. This is the public square. So we don't want to leave you out, our viewers. You guys make us possible. So thank you guys for watching. Tune in, subscribe, like, and do share the conversation. So I want to talk about, before we get some policy, because I think we've gone into policy a little bit here, or we could do it vice versa. I wanted to talk about you, the human being. But since we started with policy, let's stick there, because you always are, I think, very in tune with the business of Broward County, the business community. As you've spoken about, you have been an advocate for women's business, women-owned businesses. And I think people, especially if you are thinking about job creation or programs that have helped create jobs for minority-owned and women-owned businesses, et cetera, you have a lot of experience in that. Good morning. I see you, Ms. Menace. Welcome. Thank you for watching. So talk a little bit about your involvement in helping businesses to grow and get government contracts and to hopefully help them flourish in international trade. I know you're very involved in those areas. Can you talk a little bit about your focus and your policy making in terms of helping businesses in the community in District 20?
Thank you so much. So I mentioned before that I started the Lauderhill Chamber of Commerce shortly after I got elected in Lauderhill. In March, I got elected. August, we had a Chamber of Commerce running. We did the first business expo in Lauderhill's history by October, and also built the Lauderhill Business Incubator Program for small businesses, and started Sister Cities International in Lauderhill also. So I see a need within our community, especially within the Black community, to grow businesses. It's good to have a job and a good profession, but you can't leave that for your children. You can't leave it for the next generation. What you can leave is a business. And if you look at the people who are wealthiest in our country and in the world, they're mostly business owners. So you then get a chance to reduce the unemployment in your family and in your community by having a business where you can hire people. And one of the reasons I believe that we have such high unemployment and high poverty in our communities is we don't own as much. We don't own as many businesses. We don't own real estate to any great extent, or even major retirement accounts that we've invested in. So Business is a huge focus to change the dynamics of the high poverty, high unemployment that exists for far too long within the Black community. So I focus heavily on that. When I got to the county, one of the first major event I did was to bring our small minority and women-owned contractors together to meet with what we call prime contractors at an event, to pair them up, to team them up. Because if you are a small woman, minority-owned business, you might not have the capacity to go take on $100 million contract. But part of what you could do is become a subcontractor with them and then build from there. So we did that, was very successful in recruiting additional small minority and women-owned businesses to do business with Broward County. And in partnering with these major corporations, we also gave them leverage to get contracts. I've increased the participation rate with contracting at the county because we changed the policies. The policy now requires that prime contractors find 25% of their contracting opportunities for our CBSB program, which is comprised mostly of women, minority owned businesses. So that's how we moved from 10.25% to now 44%, $136 million last year. But a part of what we also had to do was to put training program in place and giving technical support to our small business. And if you go to our website at thecountybroward.org/econ-DEV, you'll see a plethora of opportunities for you to participate in our contracting opportunity, how you register your business to become a CBE, SBE, but also some training manual tools and connection to different resources that exist. That's something that I pushed for when I got to the county. We weren't doing that before I got there. They were shuffling paper to say you qualified to be a CBE, but nothing was being done proactively to help you train, develop, and foster. We even now have a mentor protege program, getting our small business to partner with larger businesses. And here's something that's astounding. When we had our last mentor protege program, what ended up happening is we found that the small companies were also bringing opportunity to the large companies because they would go out and find opportunities that they couldn't handle on their own because they weren't large enough and take it to the larger companies. So it wasn't just the large companies giving to the small companies were giving to the large companies. Now the National Association of Black Women in Construction is one of my staunchest group of supporters. There's a group of women that's fierce at going after contracting opportunities, and they have come on board in a huge way to support my candidacy because I've opened the door for them to get large contracts. We now have contracting opportunities for one in particular in the electrical field at building our convention center expansion and the convention center hotel. That's millions that you end up getting as a result of that contract. And I pushed for a goal on that one for 30%. They thought, well, we couldn't find it. We found it. And what we do now is this. We ensure that if a prime contractor say they can't find a small business, a minority or women-owned business, we help them find that. So they don't have an excuse that, oh, I couldn't find anyone, which is usually nonsense.
Yeah, it goes back and forth. Binders of women, I guess, is what was it Mitt Romney said. There are businesses that are more than capable and qualified to do business with the county. Is sometimes they are not looking in the right places, let's say. But we want to welcome you guys. Thank you. I see so many people watching. This is Suzette Speaks. Let's Talk Justice with none other than Dale V.C. Holness. For you guys who don't know, Palm Beach County, Broward County, we're doing this for you today. We want you to know that there's a big election coming up November 2nd to fill Florida Congressional District 20's seat. So that is a person that will go to Washington, D.C. to represent the needs of over 713,000 people between Broward County and Palm Beach County. This is a district that is majority woman. I think it's like 51% woman, has a majority African-American. I think it's 52% African-American in this district as well. People of color, Hispanics, 22%. This is a very diverse, very multicultural district. Thank you guys so much for watching. I see some comments coming in. So I want to talk a little bit more about a new initiative that you had, which was called the Florida International Trade and Cultural Expo. It was so big. I was quite surprised. And why should I be surprised? Because you have always been at the forefront of making sure not only that we get contracts here locally, but that businesses are aware of opportunities of doing business overseas. Can you talk about a little bit the vision that you had behind that expo and what it was comprised of and what did it accomplish?
Well, Florida's International Trade and Cultural Expo is something that I built on from doing Sister City program in Lauderhill and going to other countries and seeing opportunities. FitCEXpo.com. You can go there. FITCEXPO.com. We'll be hosting again this year. We got sidetracked by COVID last year. FITCEXPO.com. So in 2015, after a couple of years of wrangling with my fellow commissioners and them not seeing the importance of doing something like this, I told them, I brought an item to the agenda and says, look, here's the deal. Don't worry about the money. Just vote for me to go do this. And I'll find the money. And we did. So we started in 2015, the first year. The whole idea behind this is recognizing the need for America to sell more of its goods and its services to the rest of the world. Many people who don't travel don't recognize the fact that China is taking markets away from us, and the economy is growing exponentially as a result of doing business around the world, especially in emerging markets, such as Latin America, Caribbean, Africa, and other places. And we're not there at all. So this idea was to ensure that the world know that we are here to do business in Broward County. In 2019, we had 60 countries represented, over 2,000 people from around the world here in Broward County. We also received in Broward County a presidential award for the fact that we help our businesses here sell more goods and services to the rest of the world. That's really significant. We have had leaders from around the world. We have the governor, actually Governor Scott, actually came in 2017 and spoke. And then the candidate for governor came also, Andrew Gillum. We've had a large number of people from every department that has to do with international trade at our event. It is a significant event, and I'm told it's the largest of its kind in the Southeast United States of America. Now, if you go to Jamaica, if you go to Nigeria and Ghana, and I've been there on trade missions as a result of doing FITCE, you'll see the Chinese presence building airport, roadways, seaports, hotels, and infrastructure. And these countries don't necessarily want them to do it because here's the condition that China puts on lending the money. They say, we lend you the money to do the project, but you must use our materials. So Chinese drywall, yes. You must use their architects, their engineers, their planners. And they even go further than that. They say, now that we've been so kind to you, the workers must come from us also. And you may negotiate a portion of it. But if we get done with our phase of the work first, you will then allow us to finish your phase. So many countries, and in some countries, they don't get hardly any of the labor. So the money is supposedly loaned to these countries, but it never leaves China because it pays for all the stuff in China. Right? In the Bahamas, we had a project, the Bahama Mar, that was built $5 billion. And the Chinese were there doing the labor. Not even labor from the Bahamas was allowed in. And here's the real rub. Who goes to the Bahamas? Americans. So our money is going to China as a result of them building this facility. We ought to be there. There are programs in place that need to be enhanced at the federal level. For example, there's a program called the Gold Key program. What does this do? It allows for American businesses who want to sell goods and services to the rest of the world to have a commercial attaché from the U.S. Embassy in that country set up to 6 appointments for them over a 2-day period and accompany them there and give them the intelligence as to what they need to be looking at and how to do business with these countries. That's something that we employ there also. There's another mechanism formerly called OPIC. We just recently changed that to a different name that I don't recall at this very moment. But what that mechanism does is to finance the projects. So the way the Chinese does, but we need to tie that more closely. We need to put more resources in place to build on the Gold Key program and to also ensure that our businesses are aware of these programs and educate them. This is a part of what we do at FITCI. I've been on trade mission to Nigeria, Ghana, India, Israel, Colombia, Costa Rica, and Dubai, and Jamaica and Haiti and other countries, because we must sell more of our goods and services to the rest of the world. Understanding that 95% of the world population doesn't live in the United States, and that emerging, fast-growing economies are not necessarily in Europe. They're in the developing, emerging markets. Like
Central, South America, Caribbean. I think you make a great point there.
And if I may, just on this
Go
one,
ahead.
because there's a large number of people who are of African descent that's watching. The Wall Street Journal, about 2.5 years ago, did an article that says Africa is the future and America is not ready. It says we're leading with our military rather than with commerce, as opposed to what China is doing with leading with commerce. And when I was in Ghana, they welcomed me home. They wanted American businesses to be there, especially Black-owned businesses. And we made several $1 million in contracting opportunities as a result of that, with Black-owned companies going over there to help.
See, this is amazing. I think, for the work that you're doing, more people should know about it. I saw Snuggle say that. She's welcome. She said you're doing a disservice to not having more people listen to this information. Hello. That's why we're on. Thank you for that. And please help us like and share it, because I do think it's important information. I think sometimes we do think locally as opposed to globally. And there's money out there that can literally change the community generationally, not just for you, for your great grandkids. And I really want to thank you for bringing that to the fore, Mr. Holness, because at the same time that we are wanting to grow businesses and serve our community here, we cannot ignore our neighbors. As you said, the Chinese have realized economic power, it can be argued, is superior sometimes to military power.
Absolutely.
You got to have your guns there. Yes, we need protection, and we like to have, allyship based on military might. But guess what's real allyship? That money, the money flow, and helping our economy grow, and helping people from these countries also, gain goods and services. And hopefully we in return will also grow businesses here, and it'll be mutual. So I think you make an excellent point. I know you've been all over the world and helping to build business relationships. And we actually have departments in the state of Florida that are charged with just that. When you look at some of the heads of, I think it's like the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Florida, that's the whole job.
I partner with Enterprise Florida. I partner with the Department of Commerce, U.S. Department of Commerce, on these trade mission. And I meet with the U.S. Embassy when I go, and their commercial attaché also, to make those connections for our businesses when we take them there. And to talk about economy and military, the future is going to be who owns your economy. Because if I own your economy, if I own your purse strings, if I own your money, I will have more control over you than any gun, the number of guns that I put in there.
Hello, somebody.
Yes, because
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we need to be looking more to do. And I'd like to shift more of our focus on how do we get to this point where we're so embedded in these countries' economy that they love us and they don't want to fight us. So we don't have to spend guns.
Let me ask you this. So how does your fight change, or how do you address it from a congressional seat? So I love all these programs that you've mentioned, and they have been effective. They've built business relationships. They've caused people's businesses to grow. They've caused more, the proof is in the numbers. Minorities and women, I should say, have gotten more contracts from the county, etc. Is there a different approach that you would take? And hi, Tamara Gant. She is a South Florida radio host, television personality. Thank you for watching. She must be visiting family there. I know that's her hometown, but home state. But yes, tell us about how from Congress you can enhance these policy goals even more.
Certainly. The federal government has more to do with international trade than the local government. And whenever I go, I have to partner with them pretty much. They give me support. I mean, in Colombia, I actually rode on a gunship that the U.S. had provided to Colombia to fight the FARC. The helicopter gunship was flown by Colombians into a different part of the area, and they told me they were watching to see that I was okay. This was a few years ago when things were a little bit more heated. But the State Department and the Commerce Department can be tied together more closely. And an example of what was done with Bill Clinton when he came to power and Ron Brown. Many of you listening might be too young to know about Ron Brown. Okay, Ron Brown was the most traveled Secretary of Commerce ever in America's history, opening doors for our business to sell more of our goods and our services. And when the war happened in Kosovo or Herzegovina, he was there. And what people don't know, that in that Croatian region, the telephone system that all three factions that were killing each other used when we made the peace was built by American technology. In fact, Ron Brown was on his way there when he died in that airplane crash.
Yes, rest in peace, Ron Brown. Wow.
Exactly. Bringing business with him. There's actually a company from Miami that laid the cable, the fiber optics, to connect that telephone system. So it is critical that we do that. So here's what I want to do. I want to make sure that we expand the program that allow for us to lend funds to those who are selling goods and services overseas. If they have a contract, that we're there to support them with that. Expand the Gold Key program. Educate the public that these programs exist. Ensure that we're using all facets of our government through our embassies and our connections there to open the door for our businesses to sell more goods and services in those countries. Here's something that we have that the rest of the world don't have, that we must utilize more. We're the most diverse country in the world. We have loyal, patriotic citizens from every corner of the earth that can go and open the doors for us to sell more of our goods and our services. We must utilize that more. And in terms of the people we select to run our embassies, we need to ensure that the folks who are sending understand the culture, speaks the language, and have connections there. And we can do that because of the diversity that we have in our country. Unfortunately, too often, the minority groups are not represented in these appointments. So you have someone who has connection, let's say you, born here, but you have connections to Jamaica. Right? Understand the culture. You can go and open the doors for us and make those contacts. Nigeria, whatever country it is, we can do that. So that's something that I'll be pushing for more of that to be done. And ensuring that our SBA or Small Business Administration also plays more of a role into ensuring that this education, this information, because they have the most tentacle in terms of reaching our businesses within our country. So I want to make sure that policy is put in place to ensure that that occurs.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like I said, the conversation is heating up here, and I want to read this comment. Thank you for explaining so much. I think people are just learning about the context with which international trade must be viewed, because if we're not involved, whether it's selling pencils, toilet paper, towels, whatever it is, there has to be a way for us to get more involved with what's going on in other countries, because indirectly it's a part of our diplomacy. Yes. And it will affect us in the long term. Catherine Menace says, thanks for providing this platform to Suzette. Great. Thank you. The cost of living is extremely high in District 20. If elected, what plans does Commissioner Holness have to provide affordable housing? Would you please answer that question for her? Thank you. Thank you for that question.
I think Catherine knows that I'm a real estate broker, and I've done it. When I was president of the South Florida Board of Realtors, we partnered with Metro Miami Action Plan and other entities to put thousands of people into housing. We're at a crisis point in South Florida. And if we don't provide affordable housing, workforce housing, we won't be having a place for our people to live, to work, because workers won't be able to live here, which means our economy could slow down as a result of not having the workforce. So it's critical that we address this issue. How would I address it? From several fronts. One, more Section 8 vouchers need to be issued. Bill Clinton did that during his tenure, and actually, and a lot of people have issues with that. But understand this: that's a mechanism for many of our seniors to find housing when they get older, so that they can age in their own place, in a home, in a good facility. That's one piece. But also to expand the Section 8 voucher to allow for it to be used for purchases. You can purchase your own home with that. Some of the housing authorities are using that right now. But if you did that, then you could end generational poverty, because rather than paying the rent to a wealthy developer. Now this person can go out and purchase their own home and use this program to own their own, which means that they can pass that home on to the next generation. And a big reason that we have a crisis economically within the Black communities, we don't own as much housing of our own property as other communities do. 70% of the white community plus owns their own home. Only 46% of the Black community. So if we are able to change these dynamics, then that affordability in the long term would be diminished. But also the number of Section 8 vouchers could help to, right now, bring the cost down for people to be able to afford their own home. Secondly, more dollars to build new housing. We need to ensure the federal government is directing more money into constructing more housing units. When you have more housing units on the market, it will help to reduce the cost also. And also put pressure on the state of Florida that has the Sadowski Fund, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, that the governors and the state legislature have been diverted to other issues rather than to create more affordable housing. In Broward County this year, we're putting $12.5 million in our budget. One of only 2 counties in the state that actually use general fund dollars to create affordable housing. So there are multiple facets of helping to ensure that we put more affordable housing units out there in the marketplace.
I'm telling you, it is such a vital issue. And thank you for that question, Catherine. And I didn't realize that Section 8 money could possibly go to home ownership. You said that is actually happening in other places?
Miami is using it more than Broward County.
So Section 8 can be used to purchase a home. That would be amazing. And of course,
yes.
We know in the United States, the historical reasons why African-American home ownership lags so much behind our white brothers and sisters. It's not just by chance. It's not because we are, doing something quote unquote wrong. We do have I think, an educational gap at present. However, there are a lot of historical implications as to why home ownership has not been at the same level. So in that regard, I'm going to
redlining, not lending in the communities that
exactly bad loans.
And that's something that I'll be pushing hard for, to make sure that companies like Wells Fargo, banks like Wells Fargo and others pay a price for not being fair in their lending practices.
Absolutely. So I can't agree with you more when it comes to like the systemic issues. Can I ask you, do you agree with any type of reparations? Are you in favor of reparations? And if so, what form would they take? And reparations, for those who don't know, in terms of the legacy of enslaved African people brought to the United States, there has always been a wealth gap, of course, as a result of all these policies that were, racist and discriminatory. Do you believe in reparations, sir? Would you fight for reparations if elected to Congress?
Absolutely. It's the right thing to do. How can you not compensate people for their labor? And we did that with people who are enslaved here. They built this country, trillions of dollars in free labor, that built the capital, that built so many facets of America's economy, needs to be compensated for. Now, there may be multiple ways of doing this. One would be some direct payment to those whose heritage and go back to slavery, but also to compensate by directing capital in the communities that have high concentration of African Americans that are suffering and struggling, have suffered historically within this nation. Part of what we have done at Broward County at my push is to identify 6 zip codes and to put more resources in this. This is something that I pushed for from I got there. And I found that I discovered this while I was in Lauderhill, serving on the Enterprise Zone program. And if you look at Broward County, along the spine of 95, north to south, in the Pompano Beach, Deerfield Beach area, down into the Sistrunk corridor, down into Hollandale, West Park area, you find that those communities that abuts that, those zip codes, have high poverty, high unemployment. That's because they were redlined. That's because resources weren't put in those communities. So part of what we're doing now at the county level is to direct more attention to those communities, put more resources in there. And I've pushed for, and the Broad Alliance is also with us on this issue. So it doesn't become, well, we're discriminating against others. No, we're looking to see where the needs greatest and put more resources there. At the federal level, there's a piece of legislation that passed that I would bring changes to that legislation should I get there, and it's called the Opportunity Zone Act. The Opportunity Zone Act basically allows for wealthy folks to write off capital gains if they invest in these high poverty, high unemployment communities. Now, they're not all exclusively black. There's some that are rural. So we'll get bipartisan support to pass this legislation. Here's what I want to do with that legislation, because now it only calls for these folks to invest in these communities. There's no, and then they get to not pay any taxes on their capital gains that they have already earned if they invest in these communities. But it has no regulation, no requirements in this legislation that says the people from within this community ought to be given the jobs that are created, that the businesses in these communities ought to get some of the contracts that results from this. So I would put legislation in place that requires that be done if you're going to get to not pay any taxes. Okay, so that's one part of it. The second part of it, and it goes to the reparation questions, that we can now direct dollars into these communities for education, for healthcare, for business development and access to capital for these businesses, for homeownership increase. And it will pass quicker than if we go out and do what we would like to do for reparations, because now it's we know who we're targeting. But folks can't say, well, you discriminate against these group for this group, but we know where the target is. You don't have to say, you know, that 33311 is pretty much a black zip code, or 13 is a black zip code, or 069, 068 in Pompano, or 023 in Holland. We know who lives there. So by targeting this, it gets done quicker, and we can get the resources done, and we can create economic growth that will prosper across these communities also. So people, not just in these communities, then will be lifted up.
Thank you for letting us know where you see a possible viable reparations like plan. Of course, this has been dealt with on the local level. Some individual cities and counties have been trying to say equalize the housing market and things like this, and as you say, provide affordable housing. I want to ask this question. It says, when he says more housing units, does he mean more homes for purchase through new neighborhoods, or more homes for purchase for purchase they're erasing red lines? I want to I'm not sure. Do you understand where he's coming from? When he new homes or purchase within red line neighborhoods, I guess. And then Catherine jumps in. So true. That's definitely a fact. When you're saying the home purchase program, if the voucher program could be used, federal voucher program could be used, is there a specific neighborhood, or can you just quickly address that for us?
No. So the Section 8 program you can use anywhere you can find a housing unit, and it's not being utilized so much. So in Broward County, I brought something forward that says you cannot discriminate against someone because they get their government their funding to pay the rent from a governmental entity. That's discrimination in Broward County now. That ordinance was passed about two and a half years ago that I brought to the county commission. So redlining is a major factor why we're where we are today, because the dollars were targeted outside of these communities. So black communities, these dollars need to be applied in great deal to those communities that needs it most, but not to limit folks to say you must do this in this area or that area. That would be against the law.
Okay. Yeah, and again, there's been some pushback in depending on what we're trying to do in terms of trying to level the playing field, where you can get countersued, et cetera. So I understand what you're saying. Try to make it as broad as possible, but knowing where the areas are that exist, the greater need exists. Yes, understood.
So let me tell you what I did.
Sure.
In the Broward Municipal Service District, the unincorporated area, a large part of it is in my district. We built 120 new homes in that area. If you drive through there now, you'll see beautiful homes, 2-car garage, 2,000 square feet homes that we put dollars in to help those who are moving in with their down payment, closing cost assistance. But I insisted that these houses be built to the quality and standard that you'll find anywhere else, and that we don't put boxes in here as Habitat for Humanity wanted to do. And I told them Go build those units that you want, 900 square feet, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes. Go with no garage. Go build it in Parkland, in Weston, or in Las Olas. And I know they were, listen, I was told by...
Don't give us bad houses. Give us
Yeah.
good houses that people want to live in. I read an article about them building habitat or other affordable housing on floodplain. We don't need it on no floodplain, and we don't want no janky house either. Why can't we get... I'm sorry. Let me get off my soapbox. I already interrupted. Go ahead, sir.
I was told by a board member that a whole board meeting was dedicated to me and my audacity. but
we don't speak truth to power. We don't call it out. People will give you, the leftover. Yeah. So it's a good thing. We got to say, hey, we see what's going on. Hello.
and something else we did with that program also is that these units, we brought 10 nonprofits in to help build these units and help them with some subsidies so that they could build capacity to do more affordable housing within our communities. Entities such as Minority Builders Coalition, the Urban League, and other entities that focus within our community so they could have capacity to do more in the future also.
Absolutely. Partnerships is where it's at. Thank you, Christina. She's like, you go, girl. Yes, I get a little into it sometimes, but it's important. Politics affects our lives. Sometimes we want to say we ignore this, we ignore that. No, all politics is local. And when we select a leader to go to DC, we need to know that they're well informed and that they have a plan. So it's very good that we're here discussing and breaking down some of the issues.
So I did this to you on that lighter note that you just brought up about politics. A lot of people say, well, I'm not into politics. I say, yeah, I hear you, but politics is into you.
Hello. They're spending your money. They're spending your tax money one way or another. So hopefully you have a say in it. And again,
the
welcome.
Water you drink, the road you drive on,
the school your child goes to, it's all politics. That convention center, yes. where they play football, wherever it is, politics is involved, and money. Taxpayer dollars is involved. So you are involved, whether you want to be or not. I was going to do a quick reset. Welcome, everybody. Drop a comment if you have a question for none other than Mr. Dale Holness. He is one of the 17 candidates for Florida Congressional District 20, reaching parts of Broward County, Plantation, Pompano, Miramar, Hollandale, Sunrise, Tamarack, all the way up through parts of Lake Okeechobee, right through the heart of Broward
Pahokee,
County.
Belglade, South Bay.
Yeah, stand up, Pahokee. Where you at?
Loxahatchee,
so many.
Palm, Rivera Beach, West Palm, Harvard
We
Hill.
have the man in the house. He's here for you. He has been serving. He wants to tell you what he can do in terms of the knowledge and the projects and events he's already worked on and implemented, and now taking it to DC. So we're grateful to have him here today. I want to switch the conversation and go now to education. Woo, we have a governor who has done two major things in the last month. He has banned masks, as mandating masks across the board. And we have here, right here in Broward County, a school board that has stood up to him and said, no, our parents, our science experts and doctors have said, no, it is actually a good, prophylactic measure to make sure our students and our teachers and our staff stay safe. So we have Dr. Rosalind Osgood, who is the chair of the Broward County School Board, has made a stand along with Alachua County's school board, and they have lost some funding. They're holding this funding in terms of what the school board is I want to say guaranteed, but is rightfully owed because they're going against the governor's executive order. And of course, this is going back in the courts as well. I want to ask you about that. And also, Governor DeSantis rolled out a rollback of the FCAT. He wants to get rid of the FCAT and now wants to replace it with, I don't know, low stakes testing instead of high stakes testing. I didn't understand what was going to fill the gap. Is it going to be FCAT by a different name? I was watching the press conference trying to put it together. So I want to first ask you about mask mandates. Well, how do you think the governor is doing? Would you support a federal mask mandate? Where do you stand on that? And then we'll go to the educational question as it relates to the governor's big announcement and getting rid of the FCAT. Your thoughts? Oh, I see you. You got on the Hastings. I see you. That's the answer to the question? I
certainly support a federal mask mandate. The science says that is one way for us to stem the spread of the virus. While I was mayor, I brought the community together, the mayors together. And at first, when this pandemic hit us. People were pulling in all different directions. But with my leadership, I brought them to the table. We would bring Dr. Paul Atachi, the doctor, the person who knows the science, to come and give us an update as to where we are and give us the playing field. And then make decisions that were informed based on those data points that we need to look at. I don't know what's gotten into this governor's head. I don't know if he lost a screw or something somewhere. These are our children. We must protect them. We can't play politics with our children's lives. That's the future of our world. So where he's coming up with this stuff, I don't know what political polling or what he's doing, what red meat or whatever he's throwing at his base. It doesn't make any sense. The science is clear. It is absolutely clear that one way to stem the spread of this virus is to wear masks, especially when you're indoors in enclosed spaces and you don't have separation of 6 feet or more. The spread goes through the air. The mask help to stop that spread. It doesn't make sense for you not to do that. I support the school board strongly. Many of you know that I've stood up and support them on many issues, and I stand strong and tall with them on this. Heck, if I got to put a couple of my own dollars in to help make sure they get their money, I will, because it's the right thing to do to defend our children, to defend the system. And in terms of his playing around with FCAT, no, I'm not so much for this high stakes stuff, because teachers tell me they teach to the test. We need to find other means of being able to measure what he's bringing. I'm not clear on it either, as you aren't. But we need to be able to ensure that children are learning, and some sort of guide that occurs. But you have to look at this from a perspective of where's this child coming from? What are the gains that they're making? We know that children enter into, especially African-American children, enter into our school system not with balance. Many from lower income, from minority communities, have no less words compared to those in other communities, more affluent communities. So to just put a test in that says this is all of it, I agree, it's not necessarily the right thing to do. You have to look to see the measure, the gain that is occurring within these schools in order to determine whether you put more resources in or not. And here's a crazy thing. It's been found that they look at third grade achievement rate for a student to determine how prison cell to build, instead of looking at it and figure how much more money we bring to
We're going to go to criminal justice next. Absolutely. Imagine having a test in place where you can look at the results from third grade and know how many prisons to build. There's something wrong with that. And
Absolutely.
Teachers have been complaining that the FCAT, Florida Comprehensive Assessment Test, it's a legacy of Jeb Bush, 20 years now. Some people have said we have seen increases in school grades, etc. But there are many who have said, if you take this big test at the end of the year, I don't know where you need help throughout the year to get you there and improve on those skills. So there's been pros and cons discussed in the public. So it sounds like you want to see what his plan is actually going to be. But on the mask mandate side, let me ask you this about Joe Biden's basic mandate for companies of 100 employees or more rolled out recently. And a lot of folks, Dale, I want you to, we want to make sure we still see you. We want to make sure okay, come back. So we want to make sure, you address what the president has also done in terms of, mandating it through business, through OSHA, and now making it a business regulation that any company 100 or more either has to make mask mandatory or provide regular testing. Where are you in terms of that policy?
Strongly support it. That's the only mechanism that he has available, because he can't force the state governor to do it. But through the regulation that's in place through OSHA, that can be something that's brought. And I think that's a smart way to move. Listen, the other part of what we must do is ensure that we take this vaccination. People are saying, I don't want to. Well, we don't have polio anymore. We don't have smallpox anymore. Why?
Measles.
People are vaccinated. Yeah, exactly. And it's mandated, by the way. You can't go to school without getting the vaccination. Exactly. You can't work in certain places without getting these vaccinations either. If you don't have them, you can't travel. So to other countries or to this country, from other countries. So
Yep.
so it's common sense for us to ensure that we're doing this, and the mask mandate tied into vaccination is also helpful. And in Broward County, we're going to actually reward people who are vaccinated, and those who don't gonna have to get tested, and they might have to pay a little bit of money too, because they're gonna pay the cost for those testing. Because guess what? We know that when the vaccination rate goes up, the spread drops.
Yeah, and I want to address. Thank you so much for your comments again. Dale Holness, former mayor of Broward County, running for Florida Congressional District 20. The election throughout Broward and Palm Beach will be November 2nd, and you will see his name on the ballot. Thank you, Catherine. She was saying yes, Alcee Hastings was a tremendous loss. Yes, as well as yes, every Black person matters. We hear you. We are talking about issues that are going to be a part of your plate if elected to go to DC. We were just talking about mask mandates. I want to pivot into criminal justice since we have opened that door just now, talking about how FCAT and policies around education will impact what our jail system looks like. Of course, here in Broward County, in Palm Beach County, like I said, the district is 52% Black, African American, Caribbean American, etc. What are your plans to help reform criminal justice? And I know you've already been working with certain programs here locally. Talk a little bit about your plans to help address the school to prison pipeline, as well as to mitigate some of the, I would just say, small offense jail time for people who have low level, non-violent crimes and criminal activity. Can you address where your vision is as far as criminal justice?
So the federal government can print money. It's got the power of the Congress has the power of the purse. So part of what we ought to look to do is ensure that communities who are following the best practices are rewarded, and those who are not rewarded, such as civil citation. Now, I think I mentioned earlier about civil citation. Now, civil citation has been a very successful program for us here. In Broward County, I've been at the forefront of pushing this civil citation program. We started off with the juvenile civil citation program, and let me give you a little statistics on that. 90% of the children who participate in this program are successful. We have a less than 3% recidivism rate in this area. I moved that up to adult civil citation, starting with marijuana, and now we have it available for all misdemeanor offenses that qualify for this program, except violence. So now, programs like those should be rewarded from the federal treasury because it's going to save our communities. In Broward County, this year's largest budget item is funding our jail, $300 million, property tax dollars. So if you own property in Broward County, you're paying to lock people up. And if you are one of those people who think we should lock everybody up for every little thing, you're paying for it. It's costing us. It's costing us in terms of dollars, but it's also costing us in terms of loss of human capital. Our most important resource, or human beings, are being locked up for minor offenses. And if you go to jail, it gets worse, or prison, it gets worse. You don't come out reform or with better skill sets to live better. The civil citation programs does that because it takes you through a process of acknowledging you're wrong, paying restitution where needed, but also taking you on a pathway of bringing resources, whether it be training that you need, whether it may be job placement that you need. All those resources are, if there's mental illness in the household, if there's drug abuse, or just abuse in the household, that can be addressed by going through this program. So the success is there for this program. We know that it works, okay? And part of the reason why you see folks determine prison cells at third grade level is because, let me tell you something. What they found is this from studies, and the one that I read about 4 or 5 years ago, that said that 80% of the people that were in our prisons in Florida didn't have a high school diploma or GED, and 40% were functionally illiterate. So what we need to do is make sure we're putting resources in place to not have that happen, like funding early childhood education more, ensuring that people who work are able to afford to get their kids into early learning center. My sister is an early learning educator, and she cries all the time about the lack of resources to help, especially low-income communities. So we must invest in these dollars early, so we don't have to pay more on the back end. It's common sense for us to do so. So let's look at another statistic. In Florida, 17% of the population is black, yet 49% of the people in our prison are black. Further, in Broward County jail today, 47%, and this is a statistic that the sheriff's office gave me 3 weeks ago, 47% of the people in the jail in Broward County today needs to take psychotropic drugs to stay sane. Are we going to be able, how's that going to fix it?
Hold on. No, we got to break that down. 47% in Broward County.
In Broward County jail today.
Right now.
Are on drugs to stay sane.
Need to take psychotropic drugs to stay within their right mind.
Yes.
So we have a mental health crisis.
We do. And so one of the things that we got in this budget that we're about to vote on is $1.5 million to build supportive housing, where if you have a mental illness problem, we put you into some housing program that will bring you resources and support so you stay on your medicine, so you don't lose your mind. And that helps people become more productive, because there are people out there who takes these medication and are functional, and you won't even know it. But somehow the support is needed to be there so that we can keep them. And that's a less costly way. And I agree with the young people who say, change the system, restructure policing. You know, they say defund the police. I say restructure, redirect the funding to prioritize better results than we're getting now. Because it's insane for us to continue doing what we're doing and expect something different.
Absolutely. Thank you for your comment, Dave. Cameron, thank you for watching. We appreciate you. That's because instead of helping folks with mental health, we lock them up in prisons. Absolutely. I like this question as well. Welcome to the chat, Sandra Scheffler. What, if any, considerations should be made for sex workers? Does the civil citation program include them? What say you, sir?
Well, it's not one of the items in it.
How come?
We probably should be.
Yes, we probably should. But I'm sorry, my editorializing. Go right ahead.
Yeah, we probably should look at that, certainly, because it's not something that people don't understand, right?
All right. Well, we're going to switch. I see this next question. We are going to go now to, let's say, international policy, immigration. And this question, no, Sandra, we had not touched on Haiti. Oh, sorry, I was on the wrong question. Sorry, we had addressed this one live and direct. Thank you for watching, Christina. We appreciate you. And she had an earlier question. We're going to switch to immigration policy and international policy. All right, just hopped on. Was Haiti discussed? No, right on time. If not, thoughts on Biden's decision to send Haitians back. Now, if you guys have been watching the news, my heart was breaking looking across the border of Texas at thousands of Haitians coming through Mexico, searching for a better life, seeking asylum due to everything that's going on. President was assassinated, earthquake, total devastation going on. And now they're at the Mexican border and they're not even being processed. So tell us your approach and what you would fight for if elected to Congress when it comes to Haiti. That's
not a humanitarian way of dealing with folks. And we ought to lead as a country. It's sad. It saddens me also. And here's the other part of it that folks need to understand and be educated to, because it becomes a political football for many, this immigration issue. That's why Trump came out and did what he did. Immigrants don't take from us. They add. Immigrants work hard. And by the way, 45% of our largest corporations were started by immigrants. They create work. And many are self-employed. They find a way to work. They're not taken from us. They're helping to grow our economy. The situation with Haiti really is very hurtful. And understand something that people should know. Haiti helped this country over many years. When we were in the fight for an independent America, it was Haitian forces that landed in Savannah that rescued American forces from certain defeat by the British. And it's recorded that there were some of the fiercest fighters for our country to be independent. When they won their independence, we were granted the ability to be given the Louisiana land, which comprises 15 states, by the way. Louisiana, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, up into Montana, Minnesota. A benefit that we still are reaping from.
You're giving us a history lesson, sir. You're giving us a history lesson. Yes, Haitians been here a long time, New Orleans. They've been in New Orleans a long time.
By the way, Chicago was founded by a Haitian.
Yes, I read that as well.
Yes,
I read that as well. So a lot of Haitian ties to the United States for a very long time, way longer than people know.
For us not to understand the agony of these folks in Haiti. I've been to Haiti several times, about 7. I've been all over Haiti. I know the country. And the people are hardworking, resilient people. With what's going on there today, how can you send people back there? In a place called Martissant. The gangs have taken over. And it's because of the economic instability that is occurring why this is there, and the lack of security. I spoke 2 weeks ago with the U.S. envoy to Haiti, Mr. Danforth, Ambassador Danforth, who served as ambassador before. He's a career diplomat. He's not a political hack. And he believed that we need to put pressure on our government to aid Haiti more. He said he might be fight for it, but he's a true. I mean, he was such an honest, open conversation that we had, an honest, open man to ideas. So we must do more for Haiti, because in doing more for Haiti, we are actually going to help us too. Because understand this, right now there's cry for labor in our communities, especially in our hospitality industries where many of immigrants work, whether it be in our hotels, in our restaurants. They're crying. I've traveled recently, not far, but they're not making beds because they don't have people to do that. I was in Tallahassee about a month, 2 months ago, and they're not making the beds because they don't have people to do it. We need these folks also. It's not just for them, it's for us also.
It's a very strong point. With regards to the policy of TPS, would you be in support of extending TPS?
I have been throughout my whole career. In fact, even before I got elected. Those who are Haitians who might be on may remember Father Jean-Jus, who led the marches in Miami. Marlene Bastien, who worked to help tremendously. And Congressman Alcee Hastings, who actually ensured that the policies that we had were equally applied to Cubans as well as Haitians as a judge. People don't forget that he was there
yes.
At the forefront of that. So in addition to marching in the streets, in Lauderhill in 2006, I actually passed the resolution supporting TPS when Bush was in office. That's way before Obama came and did it. I passed one recently as this year, just before it was granted, asking the President Biden to renew it, which means that you just don't extend it, but you bring in the others that were here at the time. So I'm out there at the forefront. In fact, I'm supporting many organizations to help those who are here who qualified for TPS get that done. And ask the county, by the way, to put $250,000 in our budget to allow for that to happen. I don't know that we'll get it, but I'm pushing for that to happen. And I'm supporting many of the organizations like FAM and Catholic Charities and so many others that are out there on the front line helping resettle. And in fact, you talk about me being everywhere. I'm very busy this morning. We ran a little bit close to the time because I was at a citizenship drive.
In full disclosure, I was just going to mention that. You have been a staunch advocate of helping those who are new immigrants come through the citizenship process. And I have volunteered with one of your citizenship drives, which is basically a nice pro bono way of helping people get their questions answered, legal questions answered, get their paperwork filled out with the help of an attorney pro bono, and hopefully get on the right path to make sure they're applying for their citizenship. Tell me about
these are people who have lived here for many years in legal status, that
Yes.
qualifies to become citizen. We've
Yes.
done people as that have lived here as long as 45 years.
This is crazy to me. You've lived here 45 years as a permanent resident and you've never applied for citizenship. People do it. But trust me, when Trump was here, people was like, oh, let me get my stuff together and go apply in case anything changes. But
and listen,
you'd
not
be
only do they
surprised.
have children born here, they have
Yes.
great grandchildren born here.
Yes, and they're still not citizens. I'm like, what are you doing? But yes, there are people that need that help, and we have offered it for them. And I agree that, you have always stood with the Haitian community. And I want to ask you about DACA. Do you believe that the DACA recipients should be given full citizenship? Where are you with the DACA recipients?
So immediately we should have TPS recipient because they now have some legal status. We've done their background. We know who they are. So the TPS recipient and DACA recipient should right now be given permanent residency with a pathway to citizenship. So right now. And then we should do immigration reform as a whole. And let me tell you why. Because many people out there who are not necessarily immigrants, and even those who are immigrants, don't understand how important this is for us. If we were to do full-fledged immigration reform today, we would grow our economy by $1 trillion over the next 10 years. That's significant. Also understand this, that we would be able to pay down on our national debt, reduce our budget deficit, and expand and extend the Social Security program because more people would be paying into that system. So it is in America's best interest to do this. For some people, it's a political ploy, a political tool to win elections by pitting one group of us against the other. It's nonsense.
Listen, we are all one family here. Is how I view it. And again, guys, thank you so much. You have some great questions out there. We have a few more minutes left. I know he has to go canvas. This man is always on the move.
So let me tell you what. I'm supposed to be participating in a funeral right now.
Oh, the funeral's like right now. Can we have 5 more minutes? 5 more minutes and we're ready.
And a few minutes, I'm supposed to be in a synagogue by 1:30, okay?
Okay, we are going to let you go.
While I was balancing citizenship, I was with brothers from Cigna. So I mean,
this gentleman, like I said, for us to get him here for a good sit down. I want to. We talked about immigration. We talked about education. We talked about mask mandates. Housing is very important. Thank you for addressing so many of the issues that I think this particular district has. Employment, job creation. I think we talked about that by way of the first piece when you're talking about international trade and bringing jobs.
Let me add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me add one point to that. We must invest more in research and development so that we can be at the cutting edge of the future. There's a country that has done that very successfully, that has grown their economy tremendously, Israel. And they're utilizing those research and development now to manufacture and do more in technology and in other areas. We also need to ensure that within our educational system, we're building the training programs that are necessary to focus on the future in high-tech and high-tech manufacturing industries. For example, medical devices. We are at the forefront of that. One of the best place to in terms of manufacturing. We need to manufacture that for our own consumption, but also to sell more of it to the rest of the world. We're not going to outcompete countries with low wages to make clothes and little this and that. Folks here are not going to work for the kind of money that the others will. But in these high-tech areas, in these high-end manufacturing ends, we can actually outpace the rest of the world. And we need to direct resources towards that to ensure that we are at the cutting edge.
Yeah. Last but not least, I want to let you go. I just want to talk one more time about some healthcare issues and the healthcare disparities we've seen as a result of the pandemic. What can you do from the congressional office standpoint? You can go ahead and take your drink of water. I'm going to let you go. I know you've been talking for over an hour. So we have enjoyed the conversation, guys. The most important thing you could do is like, subscribe, or share this conversation so more people will get the information and get to know Mr. Holness. I want to talk a little bit more about the healthcare disparities. Can there be something more done? I
Yes.
see President Biden trying to get the messaging out as far as vaccines, but it goes back to me to like the healthcare disparities as a whole. If you didn't have more diabetes, if you didn't have more high blood pressure, if you didn't have more asthma, if you didn't have more whatever within communities of color, we wouldn't be struck down the way we were being struck down by this virus. So what is your approach to healthcare? And I want to ask you one more question before you go. Go ahead, sir.
So let me say this, that, Obamacare was the start of a revolution in our healthcare system. We still got a long way to go to get to where every American has access to good quality healthcare. My office, my real estate office, was utilized to mobilize support for Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, with Ms. Donaldson sitting here for 2 years, actually, after Obama got elected, to ensure that that piece of legislation got passed. My office being the first place that his campaign had to work from 24/7 during the election cycle of 2008. So healthcare is a vital issue, and it's a right that we should all have to good healthcare. Expanding the healthcare program to Medicare for all, I think, is essential step towards getting to where we get universal coverage for people. But even when we get, and part of what we've done at the county level, by the way, even with some resistance from some of my colleagues, was to expand the living wage program that I work hard, tirelessly on, to ensure that all the people that work or contract with the county actually have a living wage. It's now $17, including full-fledged insurance built into that. We passed an ordinance to ensure that those who are contracted with us have the same kind of health care that the county employees does, even though one of my colleagues thought that because she had 5-6 degrees, the other people who work elsewhere shouldn't have the same kind of health care as us, which to me was sad. But here's what we must understand: that if we have folks who are afraid to go to the doctor because they can't afford to, it costs us more, it costs you and I more, because we're going to have to subsidize the care, the emergency care that they get. It costs us more in the long run, not only in terms of the dollars right there, but in terms of productivity. Because if people get ill, they can't work, they can't take care of themselves, how are they going to be more productive to produce the prosperity for themselves, their families, and the community and our nation? It's not going to be there. So it is really critical that we expand the access to full, good medical care for every American. We can do it. We're a wealthy country. We must do it.
I cannot agree with you more. Tell us one thing about yourself that most people don't know. I wanted to get to you, the family man. I wanted to get to you, just a human being. How you're just passionate for people growing, evolving, making money, being successful, taking part in the American dream. That part of you, I don't think a lot of people get to see. So I want you to tell me one thing people don't know about you that they should know, and then I'll allow you to make your closing statement.
I love to dance.
Really? Get it down. All right, we're gonna have to see that on the next video.
Bachata, merengue, compa, calypso, all of it. The reggae, yes.
See that waist moving. Okay, so if we see a video, we know it is you if you're dancing. Well, we've had a terrific time.
And listen to me.
Go ahead.
Let me also say this, right?
Yes.
That family is important. I lost my mother and my father recently, and some of you have heard what has happened to my child, who oftentimes was referred to as my handbag. We were that close. It aches my heart to see what's happening there. Very painful. Though I don't talk much about it, doesn't mean that I'm not hurt. We all make mistakes, all of us as human beings. And the key and the most important thing is that we learn from them. All of us need to learn from any mistakes that we make in our lives.
I hear you loud and clear. Yes, we have so many more comments. We got to let him go, guys. Barbara Scott says, I'm watching live. Proud of you, Mr. Holness. We had a quick question about abortion. Do you support abortion? Would you support
a woman's right to choose is absolute.
Codifying Roe v. Wade.
Absolutely. The government has no business in a woman's body.
So we know you're supporting the or ask you. I've heard you in other debates, but do you support the John Lewis voting rights bill?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is
And
there
I've worked to expand and grow the voting base. You've seen me about registering voters. In fact, I got to tell you this: in the Jesse Jackson '84 and '88 election, I was out registering voters. And
I read that in your bio. You was working on Jesse Jackson's campaign.
There's a place that was called Skid Row, no longer exists, off over by the Sistrunk area, and a place called Melody Bar up in Pompano. Those old timers.
That's past my age, but go ahead.
I was out there
registering voters.
So the more in Pompano Beach. So listen,
Pompano.
the more people that participate in our democratic process, the better we are for it. Because the more voices that are there, the more people feel a part of it, the more inclusion there is, the better governance we have.
Absolutely. Give your last 30 seconds closing statement. You guys, I've enjoyed. I see so many more comments coming in. You're gonna have to inbox his campaign. If you have any campaign person watching, drop your campaign website, or I'll add it after the chat. I'll give him the link. He can come back in and answer you guys, talk to you guys. This has been a fabulous time getting to know you. I agree. David jumps in. A guy shouldn't be telling a woman what to do with their bodies. That's what he said. Yes. And just tell us the last 30 seconds why people should vote for you. You've obviously made the case here throughout this interview. But for your closing statement, just go ahead and tell us anything you want us to remember for those who will be voting on November 2nd from Palm Beach County and Broward County and District 20's Florida Congressional election. Tell us what you need to.
First, I want to thank you for hosting this event and for having me on. And I want to let the public know that I'm a public servant. That's where I come from. It's now a mission for me to work with our community to build a better, more prosperous place for all of us. And my last 17 years, I've dedicated my life to that. I will work hard as I have. And then they say I'm the hardest working person on the county commission. And it's documented, by the way, that my office does more work than any of the other nine, the other 8. I've been out there. I'm everywhere. I'm accessible. I'm available. I listen to you. What I do is as a result of communication with the public as to what the needs are. I will be that voice for you in Washington. It's not about their wholeness. It's about us. It's about how we build and strengthen our community for all of us, for prosperity. Thank you so much for having me.
We are going to close with that. Thank you guys for watching. Carla Williams, y'all jumping in with all these highs and hellos. We appreciate you. Share the video. Share the video. Subscribe and share the video. Thank you, sir, for your time. Good luck on this race. We'll see you at the polls, everybody, on November 2nd. Everybody, thank you so much for watching.
Go to holnessforcongress.com. Holness for Congress. Donate, volunteer, help. Spread the word.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, sir. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Paula, we appreciate you. Without the viewers, this doesn't even matter. So please do share it. Please like it. Subscribe to the channels. And we appreciate him coming. About time, Dale. Okay, we got you. Have a great one, guys. Happy Saturday. Thank you for watching. All right, we'll see you real soon. Take care, Miss Holness. Thank you for your time today.